all the tools needed for the job, minus like the expendable pieces of things like the air filter, the oil, the jack stand, the jack, the oil catch can, the oil filter. All of that's not going to be in here, but the grease gun I use is an OTC 2304, and I have super lube that I just run in it at all times. Here on the end of it, I have a lock and lube Zerk fitting attachment, and then I have a lock and lube needle attachment connected to that, and that's really easy to just pop on and off. For the tires, I use this 21 millimeter socket, an impact wrench to break everything loose, and then I use this large torque wrench to get it to 103 foot-pounds. And then for the oil change job, I use a 14 millimeter socket with a little extension, you'll need that. And then the 12 millimeter socket for removing the skid plate, the oil filter wrench, and then a smaller, lighter weight torque wrench for getting the 29 foot-pounds for the oil drain plug. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. All right, so the first thing I like to do is, before I jack the vehicle up, I'll loosen all the bolts. So these are on, but they're pretty loose. But it makes it where once you jack the vehicle up, the tire will break itself and it'll be like wobbly. So I loosen it while it's on the ground. And then once I lift it up, like you can see, the tires are broken free, and I don't have to get like a 2x4 and fuck with it. It's always a pain, you can see. So I like to do that, double check all the tires are kind of broken free, and then got everything under jack stands. So safety wise, we're all good. I pulled these pictures directly from the following pages on the FSM. You can either do a 4-tire rotation or a 5-tire rotation with your spare. When you have your tires off, this is when you can check your brakes and just make sure that like your brake lines, your CV axle boots, and just everything has no rips and no grease is getting sprayed everywhere. So yeah, so there's my brakes. Everything looks good. The other side looked great too. And my boots are still holding up strong. My power steering rack, you can see it's got some seepage on the inside lines. So that's probably what I'm gonna replace. And when I replace that, I'll probably be getting a Freelance Fab spindle, completely new. And I'll probably replace the lower control arm, and that'll actually be like my entire front suspension complete. Get it? All right, so I've got an individual video for oil changes, but this will be all-inclusive. So the first thing you're gonna do is pop off the skid plate if you got it. You should have one bolt here. I'm missing one, but you'll have one there. So that'll be 3 right there. Then you'll have 2 in the back, right here and right here. So 5 bolts total. All right, so I fast forwarded this, but you're just gonna remove your 5 bolts and then make sure the skid plate doesn't hit you in the face when you're removing the last bolt. There's 2 hooks on the front that kind of hook into the right under the radiator on the frame. So just push up and pull back. All right, so once you get the skid plate off, you got the oil filter right here, and then the oil drain right here. This is a 14 millimeter bolt. And then there's also going to be like a crush washer that you'll have to replace when you do this as well. So we'll remove those 2 and get this bad Larry draining. Before I do that, I'll come up to the top of the engine and open up the oil fill cap so that it can drain out. If you keep pushing up into the screw until it's completely threaded out, you might be able to do, hopefully I can show you, but you'll be able to pull it off without getting caught by the oil. So now the oil is starting to come down the threads, which tells me I'm pretty sure I'm out. Yep. All right, so now I can just move it, and it reduces how bad I kind of eat the oil. But yeah, I also put a little, so here's the little crush washer I was telling you about. So this is supposed to get replaced every oil change. I get one with my oil filters. Not a big deal. Here's how I do the oil filter. I basically crank it loose with a little oil filter tool. Then I'll put a gallon Ziploc bag over it, and it'll make it where I make zero mess, and I just drain it all into the Ziploc bag, and then I'll transfer it into the... This is pretty straightforward. Just make sure you have a good grip on the bag if you choose this method, because the whole purpose is to not make a mess, and if you drop the filter and spill the bag, it's bad. All right, so I got the new filter opened up. We're gonna just take some of this old oil on our finger, wrap it around this oil ring and the threads right here so it doesn't get stuck later on. And then we got the bolt put back on the drain pan, the new crush washer. That'll be good. So it's gonna be torqued at 29 foot-pounds. So once you got that torqued and you got this bad Larry tightened pretty good, you can fill it. So I'm gonna just wipe off the excess. I usually keep the skid plate off for a little bit just to make sure that I don't have any like dripping and leaks, because the skid plate will catch all of that. And I won't be able to tell for a little bit too long than I'd like. Yeah, so if you replace the oil filter at 6.6 quarts, if you choose for some reason not to replace the oil filter, it's only 6 quarts. Make sure you do a check after like the first couple days of driving, and then it should be between the 2 dots on your stick. All right, so every 5,000 miles, I also give 3 to 4 pumps inside the upper control arms. I've had these upper control arms on my truck for over a year now, and drove from Alaska to Florida with them. They seem like a good bargain in terms of not spending $1,000 on upper control arms, but if you have a lift, you need something different. Page 54 of the digital FSM. This is a screenshot of it. And the first, we're going to start at the front of the vehicle. There's one Zerk fitting here for the propeller shaft spider. I got this 3-inch Easy Lube attachment that goes on top of my Zerk fitting attachment, and it makes this entire process super easy. So you just get the needle and you push it up on the ball of the Zerk fitting. Sliding down to the front of the transfer case, there's one more Zerk fitting. You don't need the needle attached for this one. You can just get the Zerk fitting right on there and then pump it until the fresh grease begins to come out. All right, now we'll slide a little bit down the truck again to the back side of the transfer case. Again, you don't need a needle for this one. If you put your vehicle in neutral, you're able to free spin your propeller shaft to get the Zerk fitting in a place that's easy to get to and accessible. Or if you just get lucky parking, then I guess you can get to it too. But I had to put it in neutral and then spin it with my hand until it was in a place that I could get to it and film it, and then went from there. Here's kind of an up-close shot of the grease, the old grease getting pushed out and the new grease. So I have super lube inside the grease gun, so it's really easy to see the white on the new grease coming out. Then we'll move down to the double cardan joint. There's 3 grease Zerk fittings inside of this joint, and you'll need the needle to get to every single one of them. So you can see in there, they're really tight in there. Another thing some people do is they like grind down the edge of their Zerk fitter. I tried that once, and I over grinded it, and it was just leaking out the side. So the needle is definitely much easier. Again, you just push it in and apply inward pressure while you're pumping the grease. All right, so here at the very back by the back axle, there's 2 spots. There's a Zerk fitting right here, and there's another Zerk fitting right here. This is for the slip yoke. So if you're ever braking and you feel you brake all the way, and then when you let off the brake, it feels like you get a punched in the back bumper, this is probably what you need to grease. So you don't need a needle for either of these ones. So just get that on there, give it some pumps, and once the fresh grease starts coming out, we'll switch to this slip yoke. The slip yoke, you can damage the vehicle by overfilling it. So I usually just do like 8 to 9 pumps every oil change, and it keeps me out of trouble. All right, so I'm also going to check my air filter. Pretty simple. There's a clip right here, clip right here, there's a clip right here. Just was holding the phone. This clip is reversed, so it actually like comes on the bottom, so just make sure it's not caught like it just was on me. And you can get it up and see how it's looking. She's looking pretty good. Yeah, this is the same filter I put in right before leaving Alaska, and honestly it looks pretty good, but for 20 bucks I'm gonna just replace the filter too. So here's the new filter. That's the code for it. Pretty simple, but just put it in like this with the thick rubber going down. And let's see if I can do it one-handed again here. Got it open. This little guy goes, falls right in. You're putting it down. Just gotta make sure that this side over here properly seats down on it. So it's there. And then you get this clip and it hooks under, and then you pull up on this little